In 2008, the private jet industry nearly collapsed. Companies were cancelling orders. Executives were driving to meetings instead of flying because the optics of stepping off a Gulfstream during a recession would end careers. Congressional leaders literally told auto CEOs to sell their jets before asking for bailout money. The industry came back stronger than ever. Today, there are more private jets in the air than at any point in history, and the gap between the cheapest way in and the top is wider than most people realize. One guy pays $2,000 for his seat, another paid $75 million for the plane. Same runway, same takeoff, completely different realities. Before I start, I already know someone's going to comment about fractional ownership. Someone else is going to say net jets. We'll get there. Level 1, the entry point, semi-private and empty leg flights. This is where most people first experience private aviation, and it's designed to make you feel like you've arrived when you haven't quite arrived yet. Empty legs are repositioning flights. A jet needs to fly somewhere to pick up its next client. And instead of flying empty, operators sell seats for a fraction of the normal price. You can find empty legs for $1,500 to $4,000 one way on routes like New York to Miami or LA to Vegas. Semi-private operators like JSX take it further. Fixed routes, small terminals, 30-seat jets with every seat in a business class configuration, $500 to $2,000 per flight. No TSA lines, no boarding groups, no middle seat next to a guy who brought a tuna sandwich. Who actually flies this? The startup founder who just closed a seed round and wants to post the FBO selfie. The real estate agent who needs one impressive airport arrival to close a client. They all walk through the private terminal for the first time and think, this is it. This is the life. Then they realize the flight leaves. When it leaves, goes where it goes. And they have zero say in either. See, the convenience is real, the flexibility is not, and flexibility is the entire product from Level 2 onward. Level 2, on-demand, charter, light jets. This is where private aviation actually begins. You pick the departure time, you pick the airport. The plane waits for you, not the other way around. Light jets seat 6 to 8 passengers. Range of roughly 1,500 to 2,000 miles. Think Citation CJ3, Phenom 300 Honda Jet. Charter cost runs $4,000 to $8,000 per flight hour. A round trip from New York to Miami lands around $25,000 to $35,000 all in. But the experience is fundamentally different from Level 1 because you control the schedule. Wheels up when you're ready. Land at the airport closest to your destination, not the hub 2 hours away. Who's here? The mid-market CEO who flies commercial 90% of the time, but charters when 3 meetings need to happen in 2 cities in 1 day. The law firm partner taking 4 associates to a closing in another state who realize the charter costs less than 5 last-minute business class tickets, plus the hotel night they'd need if they flew commercial. This is the level where someone does the math for the first time, shows it to their CFO, and the CFO stares at the spreadsheet for a long time before quietly saying, yes. Not often, but the math is closer than most people think. And that realization is what pulls people deeper into private aviation. Level 3, super mid-sized jets. This is where private aviation stops feeling like a workaround and starts operating as serious business infrastructure. Mid-sized jets like the Citation Latitude or Learjet 60, super mids like the Citation Longitude, Challenger 350 or Praetor 600. Seats 8 to 10, range of 3,000 to 4,000 miles, charter cost of $6,000 to $12,000 per flight hour. Stand-up cabins, enclosed lavatories, enough room to hold a meeting, eat a meal, or sleep flat on a transcontinental flight, New York to LA non-stop. That capability changes the function entirely. It stops being a taxi with wings and starts being an office with a runway. A commercial itinerary from New York to 3 regional cities takes 2 days. A A super mid does it in one, and you sleep in your own bed that night. Who owns this? The family office that looked at the flight department budget and realized chartering 200 hours a year was already costing more than a fractional share. The Challenger 350 is the sweet spot of the entire private aviation market. Enough range, enough cabin, reasonable operating costs. Most serious charter clients settle here and never move up. And most of them will tell you the same thing. They didn't move to private jets because they wanted luxury. They moved because the lost time was costing more than the jet. Level 4, heavy jets, the Challenger 650, the Gulfstream G280, the Legacy 650. This is the first time the cabin matters as much as the destination. Seats 12 to 16. Range of 4,000 to 6,000 miles. Charter cost of $10,000 to $16,000 per flight hour. Full galleys where a flight attendant prepares actual meals. Multiple cabin zones. Sleeping configurations. Entertainment systems. Conference layouts. The jet is no longer competing with commercial first class. It's competing with a hotel suite. And winning. Below this level, you fly private because it saves time. At this level, you fly private because the experience itself has value. Board meetings in the air, deal negotiations landing 6 hours ahead of schedule, families flying coast to coast with children sleeping in a separate cabin zone while the parents have dinner 2 rows forward as if nothing unusual is happening. Who lives here? The PE fund managing partner who flies 250 hours a year. His fractional share costs less per hour than chartering, and his assistant books trips the way other assistants book conference rooms. The plane is not a perk. It is a shared corporate asset that happens to also go skiing. This is also where ownership first makes financial sense for frequent flyers. And from here, the numbers start separating wealth from serious wealth. Level 5, ultra-long-range jets, the Gulfstream G700, the Bombardier Global 7500, the Dassault Falcon 8X. At this level, distance stops existing. Range of 7,000 to 8,000 nautical miles. New York to Tokyo non-stop. London to Singapore non-stop. No fuel stops, no customs at intermediate airports, no schedule disruptions, just point to point anywhere on the planet in a cabin that makes most hotel rooms look budget. List price sits around $75 million. Charter runs $12,000 to $18,000 per flight hour. Who's here? The billionaire who says Tuesday in Singapore, Thursday in London, and means it. The tech founder who sold for 9 figures and now lives on a G700 the way most people live, in apartments, except the apartment does Mach 0.9 and the neighbors are air traffic controllers. When one of these lands, people at the terminal stop and look, not because it's unusual to see a private jet, because aircraft at this level have a presence that others don't. They sit on a ramp the way an S-Class sits in a parking lot. Everything above this level is a choice made for reasons that go beyond aviation. Level 6, VIP airliners, Boeing business jets, and Airbus corporate jets. This is where private aviation stops being a jet and becomes a residence at 40,000 feet. The CJ220 is the newer entrant based on the Airbus A220. 6 distinct cabin zones designed from the start for the private market, rather than converted from a commercial frame. Reported pricing around $80 million, fully completed. Who buys this? You won't find their names on Forbes, not because they're not wealthy enough, but because they are wealthy enough to stay off the list. Royal families, industrial dynasty heirs, the type of wealth that doesn't have a Wikipedia page because someone made sure it doesn't. A UHNW individual on a G700 for 12 hours is comfortable. The same individual on a BBJ for 12 hours is at home. That distinction matters to a very small number of people, but for those people, no Gulfstream will ever be enough, and they will never understand why anyone would fly in a tube with only one cabin zone. Level 7, the final level, head of state and custom wide-body territory. This isn't private aviation, this is political power with wings. Air Force One is a modified Boeing 747-200B with a replacement VC-2 5B based on the 747-8 currently in development. Estimated program cost $5.3 billion. That is not a typo, billion. The aircraft includes a medical suite, a secure communications center, mid-air refueling capability, and electronic countermeasure systems. It can function as a mobile command center during a national crisis at 45,000 feet. The Sultan of Brunei's Boeing 747-430 reportedly features gold-plated fixtures and is estimated to have cost over $100 million in interior completion alone. Saudi Arabia's royal fleet includes multiple wide-body aircraft configured as flying palaces with full diplomatic support infrastructure. These are not jets, these are embassies with engines. They carry security teams, support staff, communication systems, and diplomatic capability. Private aviation started as a convenience for people who couldn't afford to waste time. It became an industry for people who could afford anything. And somewhere between the $2,000 empty leg and the $5.3 billion Air Force One, the product stopped being the plane. The guy in the empty leg seat and the guy in the BBJ are both doing the same thing. They're buying hours. One's buying two, the other's buying all of them. Every other industry sells you a product. Private aviation sells you the only resource you can't manufacture. The jet was never the point. What you do with the time is, if this was useful, subscribe. I break down how things actually work, not how the brochure describes them.